I didn't say a word when the HOA president screamed about trespassing. I just dropped the county maintenance contract on the table and slid it across like a poker chip. Their lawyer leaned forward, scanned the seal and the signatures, and the color drained right out of his face. The president kept ranting, something about my tractor being an eyesore, but her voice wavered when she realized the county seal wasn't forged. I sat back, arms folded, and let the silence bury her. It was the kind of silence that only comes when someone suddenly understands they've been fighting the wrong battle against the wrong person. Before all this, I had no intention of clashing with anyone. I wasn't a man who went looking for trouble, certainly not neighborhood squabbles. I had spent most of my career building and maintaining county roads. Long days, long nights, a lot of dust and diesel in my lungs, and the quiet satisfaction that came from leaving something solid and dependable behind. After 25 years of that, I thought I'd earned the right to live in peace. So when my father passed and left me his property, 10 acres just outside a sleepy subdivision with winding gravel roads and tall pines, I thought it was the perfect retreat. I moved into the old farmhouse, fixed up the barn, and kept my county-issued tractor in a shed at the back. My life was simple: coffee at dawn, a few hours of contracted road grading when needed, fishing on the weekends, and evenings sitting on the porch while the crickets tuned up their orchestra. I never wanted to be part of an HOA. That was never the plan. The subdivision had sprung up years after my father bought the land, and although they had tried to rope him in, his parcel was excluded. I assumed that meant they'd leave me alone. For a while they did. My place sat far enough from the main drag that no one seemed to care what I did. I planted a garden, kept a couple of chickens, and helped out neighbors when the snow got heavy, or when a pothole swallowed too much of their road. If anything, I thought they'd appreciate having someone around who knew how to keep a road passable. That illusion shattered the day I came back from grading a section of county road and found a bright yellow violation notice taped to my barn door. Unauthorized equipment storage, it read in bold letters. I remember blinking at it, thinking there had to be some mistake. The equipment in question was my tractor, county-owned, legally stored on my own land under contract. The notice demanded I remove it within 72 hours or face escalating fines. At first I laughed. Surely it was a mix-up. They couldn't possibly think they had the authority to regulate county property, much less tell me what I could park on land that wasn't even under their jurisdiction. But it wasn't a mistake. The next week I found another letter. Then another, each one more aggressive, threatening legal action, fines, even towing. Towing a county tractor. That was when the frustration started creeping in. I reached out to the HOA office, politely at first, thinking we could clear it up with a 5-minute conversation. Instead, I got stonewalled. The woman at the front desk smirked as she told me, "Rules are rules." When I explained that my property wasn't part of their HOA, she waved me off and said, "You'll need to take that up with the board." So I wrote an email, carefully worded, citing the county contract and attaching a copy of the deed showing my property was excluded. No response. A week later, another violation notice, this one with a fine attached. I requested a meeting. They denied it. I stopped by their office again, and this time the president herself, sharp bob haircut, tight blazer, voice like gravel, told me point blank that large machinery has no place in this community. I reminded her that my land was not in her community. She leaned in, eyes hard, and said, "We'll see about that." That was the moment something shifted in me. I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was arrogance, pure and simple. They thought they could bully me into compliance, maybe even push me to sell so they could fold my land into their little fiefdom. I wasn't angry. Not the shouting kind of angry. But I did feel the cold, sharp edge of resolve setting in. I stopped wasting time on emails and started digging. First, I pulled my deed and the county zoning records. Clear as day, my land was outside their jurisdiction. Then I went deeper. I dug up the county infrastructure contracts, including my active agreement to maintain roads in the area, roads the HOA technically didn't even own, but loved to posture about. I found archived maps from the 1970s showing the original easements, carved out for road access. And just for good measure, I started keeping meticulous records. Every violation notice, every email, every voicemail dripping with condescension. I even took photos of the notices taped to my barn, just in case they tried to deny it later. It wasn't just about proving them wrong. It became about building a case so airtight that when I finally laid it on the table, there would be no wriggle, room, no misunderstanding they could hide behind. My neighbors started to notice too. Some of them avoided me, afraid of the HOA's wrath. A few quietly supported me, whispering stories of their own run-ins with the board, but none were willing to stand up publicly. That was fine. I didn't need them. This wasn't going to be a battle fought with crowds. It was going to be me, a stack of documents, and the smug little empire they thought they'd built. When the time came, I didn't make a scene. I waited until the next board meeting. The HOA president had sent me another final notice, threatening legal action if I didn't comply. I walked into the meeting calm, tractor grease still under my fingernails, and took a seat in the back. They tried to brush me off at first, muttering that non-members couldn't speak. That's when I pulled out the county contract, stamped, and signed, authorizing me to store, operate, and maintain equipment on that property for as long as I held the contract. I slid it across the table. The lawyer reached for it, and I'll never forget the look on his face. He scanned it once, twice, then adjusted his glasses. The president kept talking, her voice rising, until he finally leaned over and whispered something in her ear. Her face went pale. She glanced at me, then back at the contract, then back at me again. The room went quiet except for the sound of her papers shuffling. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just leaned back, folded my arms, and let them sit with it. They had been barking at the county's own contractor, trying to find the very man responsible for keeping their precious roads intact. After that meeting, the violation notices stopped. The fines disappeared. The president never apologized, of course, but I noticed she couldn't quite meet my eyes when we crossed paths. A few months later, she resigned for personal reasons. The lawyer, too, backed away quietly. The board still exists technically, but their bark has been reduced to a whimper. Now, when I drive my tractor down those winding roads, no one says a word. Some wave. Most just stay out of the way. And me? I go back to my porch in the evenings, coffee cup in hand, listening to the crickets and the low hum of peace restored. I didn't set out to fight an HOA, but if they thought they could bulldoze me, they forgot one thing. I was the one who ran the bulldozers.